What's up, everybody? Welcome to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesar Sportsbook. I'm Katie Mox. Today, we're talking the playoffs. We've made it. The NFL playoffs are here. Super Wildcard weekend matchups. And to do so, we are joined by one of my favorite analysts from the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. It is Munaf Manji. How you doing, Munaf?
Doing well, Katie. You mentioned it. The season everybody says this NFL season flies by. It's already playoff time for the NFL. But yeah, I'm excited to be here with you. Thanks for having me in playoffs, man. It's time to get, I guess, down and dirty, I guess, for lack of better words.
Yeah, well, first of all, the banner behind you, the Houston Texans,
Yes.
not only
Don't make this
in
week.
the playoffs, won the division. CJ Stroud looking like an absolute stud. D'Amico Ryan's first year coach. How are we feeling?
You know what? I will be the first one, and I'll be honest that I thought this first year for the Texans was going to be a down year, just because you have a new head coach coming in, you have a rookie quarterback coming in. Sometimes it takes a little bit for them to kind of implement their new offensive system, defensive system, and things like that. But and I was a little also, I'll be honest, I was a skeptical about an Ohio
Well,
State
yeah,
quarterback because they haven't had a great track run in the NFL, right? But
at all.
CJ Stroud has looked absolutely amazing. Should be rookie of the year
Yes,
for offensive side, at least for the
yes.
Texans. And maybe D'Amico Ryans also gets coach of the year. But yeah, definitely exciting times after being down in the dumps for the past several seasons with the whole Deshaun Watson fiasco. But yeah, the city's excited. I'm excited and glad to be back in the playoffs.
Yeah, and y'all just had the national championship too out there in
Yeah.
Houston. Go blue. Harbaugh won that one. Before we get into the picks here, lot of changes in the NFL with
Yeah.
coaches. Bill Belichick just this morning retired. Nick Saban last night retired. Pete Carroll moving on to a different position. I think he kind of got kicked out as the coach, but he's still going to be
Yeah.
there, advising on certain things. Mike Vrabel out. Oh my God. Like, what do you think of all of these moves? Are you surprised by any of them or all of them?
Um, I think the
Yes
most
and no, right?
surprising
Like, we
one.
kind of, yeah, sorry, keep going.
No, you're good. I think the most surprising one, probably Nick Saban. I think that the rumors were already there for Bill Belichick throughout this season that, hey,
Yeah.
this might be his last season. I saw a report this morning that he still wants to coach. I'm sure there's another team that's going to open the doors for him and welcome him with
Chargers.
open arms. Yeah, I think it's going to be the Chargers as well. But
Yeah.
I think that, yeah, the most surprising Nick Saban, just because all the success that he's had at
Yeah.
Alabama in the college football ranks, winning numerous national championships, just the success that he's had in the SEC. It's funny that you mentioned that because there's just so many different memes and things flying around on the Twitterverse that, hey, on Monday, Nick Saban's going to do this. Wednesday, Bill Belichick, you're going to do
Yeah.
this. And Pete Carroll, you're
Other
on
script
Tuesday. But
writers. Yeah.
yeah, I thought it was
They're back.
hilarious. But yeah, I think Nick Saban's probably the most one that's surprising to me, Katie.
Yeah, it's like one of those things where I feel like hindsight is 2020. I was the most surprised by Pete Carroll. I did not think that I thought they would kind of let Pete Carroll go on his own terms. And I
Sure.
think he probably would have liked to coach another season. I think he's kind of being pushed out into this other direction, which it makes sense. He is, I think, the oldest coach on the sidelines, or that has been. Bill Belichick, like you said, I'm not surprised by it based on all of the rumors that we've heard all year, but I really did think that he was gonna stay in New England. I didn't think that I just didn't see him leaving. Nick Saban, I'm surprised by it, but then also he's been so vocal the last couple years with
Yeah.
NIL and everything else and all of the changes with college football that he just doesn't like it, and he doesn't like where football
Yeah.
is going, and so I do think it's kind of time for him to be like, "All right, football is changing, college football, in a way that I don't necessarily like. I can't do the things the way that I'm used to doing them. I'm just going to go out on a high note." And then Mike Vrabel, I think that's the probably least shocking one to me. I kind of think he might go to New England.
To New England, yeah. I think that's the
Yeah.
same sentiments. I saw a report this morning that the owner of the Titans, I think the last straw was when the Texans actually went into Tennessee and beat the
Yeah.
beat the Titans that
Yeah.
week. I think that was the final straw for Mike Vrabel. But again, I'm agreeing with you. I think that he ends up in New England, and then Bill Belichick, I think, will probably end up with, I think, a roster that's ready to compete for the past several seasons. They just haven't had the head coach in the
Yeah.
Los Angeles Chargers with Justin Herbert and the offensive talent that they do have there.
I agree. That's my prediction. I think Belichick goes to the Chargers. Him with Justin Herbert is going to be amazing. And the defense
Mhm.
that is good but can't seem to get their stuff together, Bill Belichick can really help with them. I think that Harbaugh goes to the Bears. I mean, I know we still have to fire Eberflus, but I assume that's coming at some point soon.
So they said that
Um,
Eberflus is gonna be
yeah.
back, next season.
I that that's confirmed.
Yeah, from what I read this morning, it was confirmed, but again, it's the NFL, it's sports, things change from one minute to another. I
Uh
personally feel like Harbaugh ends up, I think, with the Commanders.
Okay. Yes. I mean, I think they've the Commanders are making all of the right moves, right? They've got why am I blanking on the Warriors past GM Bob Myers?
Bob Myers, yeah.
Bob Myers in there helping out. Even one of my colleagues at CBS Sports, Rick Spielman, there kind of help. So they're taking it very seriously, which I
Yeah,
like. They've got this new owner group that's amazing, and yeah, I do think that's a very attractive place for Harbaugh, especially because they need a quarterback, but they
yeah,
have all of the tools they can be successful. So
yeah,
they've got a decent defense. I know they traded away a lot of their big players at the trade deadline this year, but they've got some good weapons on offense. So yeah, I think that's attractive to him. I'm my head spinning about Eberflus. I can't believe that Chicago would keep him another year because I loved the storyline of Harbaugh going there. I think Vrabel goes to the Patriots, and then
yeah.
I think Pete Carroll is really done.
Yeah, I think for the Commanders, they also I think believe they have the number 2 overall pick this, upcoming NFL draft. So we know obviously the top 2 guys that are gonna end up going are gonna be quarterbacks, either Caleb Williams and Drake May. So, I mean, that just makes it attractive, for any coach that's gonna be, taking on the Commanders job, whether it is Harbaugh, whether it's somebody else. So, and obviously you have Eric Bieniemy there as well, one of the brilliant offensive minds. We saw the success that he had with Patrick Mahomes and the
Yeah.
Kansas City Chiefs and the title that they won and all the playoff success they've had. So, yeah, it's always a fun time. Or not for at least for fans, it's a fun time for not some of these coaches that do
Oh
get
yeah.
fired because we get to sit here like we are and talk about who we think will end
Yeah.
up where as far as NFL jobs for next season.
It's NFL gossip, right? It's
It
like, "Oh,
is,
we
yeah.
overheard this, and this person's going there, and maybe this." It is fun. We're gonna talk about football. This is a football podcast, but since you are an NBA prop guy and very,
Hmm.
very dialed in on the NBA, I do wanna get your take on the Raptors coach, after they played the Lakers, and he kinda went off about the officiating, and I think there was, like, 23 free throws from the Lakers in the 4th quarter alone versus
Yeah,
2 for the
yeah.
Raptors. What's your take on the officiating in the NBA and this problem?
So we talked about this on my pod yesterday on the NBA pod, and I actually went back and watched the highlights and watched the fourth quarter. So a lot of the fouls that did occur in the fourth quarter in that game against the Lakers and the Raptors were fouls that were occurring within those final 2 minutes or that final minute where maybe that discrepancy it seems like it's larger than it really was because when your team is down multiple possessions,
You're trying to
obviously
foul.
you're
Yeah,
you're
exactly.
going to try to foul get back in the game, and which the Raptors almost did. They only lost that game by 1 point, but
Yeah.
I think that the offensive foul call that was called on that game tying 3-pointer by, I believe it was Pascal Siakam who shot it, that would have tied the game up. I think that was an absolutely brutal call because Anthony Davis is close to 7 feet. He's probably 200 plus pounds. There's no way that he's going to go flying to the floor like that he did, and they call that offensive foul. So
Yeah.
maybe there was a little bit of flopping there, but look, I agree with the head coach of the Toronto Raptors, right? I think that officiating, and not only in the NBA, we could talk about the NFL as well, that it's
Yeah.
players are held accountable for their actions on the floor. Case in point, like
Mhm.
guys like Draymond Green, Dylan Brooks of the NBA. How come NFL or NBA refs aren't held to the same standard when they make mistakes or they
Yeah.
mess up a call
Yeah.
when it's crucial time in the end or in the final minutes where it can
Yeah.
sway one team winning or one team losing, right? So I went back and watched it like 5 times on his post game interview. I agree 100%, but it's also the Lakers. LeBron's going to get those superstar
He's
calls
always
and those calls.
Yeah. Well, just like Patrick Mahomes is always gonna get the calls, and then we saw what happened to Justin Fields, a week
Yeah,
ago. Anybody else would have got a call on that. So, yes, agree with you 100%. Okay, good. I was curious about
yeah.
your take on that. We are gonna take a quick break here, and then we're gonna dig in to Super Wildcard Weekend. You're watching Moxie Bets. Don't go anywhere. Why should you bet with Caesars Sportsbook? Two words: Caesars Rewards. Every bet brings you closer to the type of benefits only Caesars can offer: hotel stays, VIP experiences, sports and concert tickets, and more. It's not just an app, it's an empire. 21 and over must be physically present in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming, or Washington, D.C. Sports betting is void in Georgia, Hawaii, Utah, and other states where prohibited. Know when to stop before you start. Gambling problem: Illinois, Maryland, New Jersey, Ohio, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Pennsylvania. Affiliated with Harris, Philadelphia. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, crisis counseling and referral services can be accessed by calling 1-800-GAMBLER. That's 1-800-426-2537. Or in Maryland, visit mdgamblinghelp.org. Or West Virginia, visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net. Arizona, call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. Colorado, D.C., Nevada, Wyoming, Kansas. Affiliated with Kansas Crossing Casino. Call 1-800-522-4700. Indiana, call 1-800-9-WITH-IT. Iowa, call 1-800-BETS-OFF. Louisiana, call 1-877-770-STOP. Licensed through Horseshoe, Bossier City, and Harris, New Orleans. Massachusetts, if you or a loved one is experiencing problems with gambling, please call 1-800-327-5050 or visit gamblinghelplinema.org for 24/7 support. Michigan, call 1-800-270-7117. New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NEW YORK or text HOPE New York 467-369. All right, welcome back to Moxie Bets, presented by Caesars Sportsbook. Let's take a look at the Super Wildcard Weekend. I love that this has become the Super Wildcard Weekend and that there's more teams involved in it and it's over a couple days. I think it just makes everything so much more fun. So let's look at your team on Saturday, taking on the Browns. Browns laying 2.5 on the road in Houston. And look, this Browns team, when you were talking about D'Amico Ryans as a potential coach of the year, his biggest competition is probably Kevin Stefanski, who's gone
Yeah.
through multiple quarterbacks this year. And this Browns team not only is in the playoffs, but really feels like a dark horse contender. And you've got Joe Flacco, who is the only quarterback in the AFC playoffs who has won a Super Bowl. The second one. The second one, obviously, is Patrick Mahomes.
Yep.
CJ Stroud, rookie quarterback. Traditionally, rookie quarterbacks maybe don't do that well in the playoffs, but I don't think there's anything basic or normal about CJ Stroud. I mean, this guy doesn't seem to be afraid of anything. He goes out and he's a killer. 6-3 versus teams entering with winning records this season. 9-4 in the last 13 starts. No rookie quarterback has ever started a Super Bowl. I don't know that the Texans get all the way to the Super Bowl, but this is a fun, frisky team. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, this team, they played the full 60 minutes, and that's how D'Amico Ryans has coached this team up, whether it's on the offensive side or the defensive side. And I think the biggest, I guess, trends or notes and stats about this game is that you take a look at the Cleveland Browns defense on the road and at home, right?
Yeah.
So on the road, we'll look at this ATS. They're 7-1 straight up. So sorry, 8-1 straight up on the at home and 8-1 against spread at home as well. Now, this game being on the road in Houston, not very good on the road this season for the Cleveland Browns, right? 3-5 straight up, 2-5-1 against the spread are the Cleveland Browns. And I know these two teams did match up in week 16, but obviously that was a game that Texans didn't have CJ Stroud. It was a
Right.
combination of
Right.
Case Keenum and Davis Mills, right? And absolutely, Amari Cooper just torched the Texan secondary in that game. I think he had close to 200 or 200 plus receiving yards in that game. But
Yeah.
like I mentioned, Kay, I think the biggest thing that does stand out for me in this game is that the Cleveland Browns at home this season,
Yep.
they allowed a league, I guess league best we can say, right under 2 touchdowns per game. But they were league worst in allowing points per game on the road this season, 29.3. They were tied only with the Denver Broncos as far as how bad their defense was. So I think the key for the Texans in this game is going to be, can D'Amico Ryans put together a defensive game plan that can put pressure on Joe Flacco? Because we know, obviously, at his age, he's not going to be the most mobile guy out there. So he's going to sit back there and just fling the ball all over the field. But I'm not picking against my Texans here. I mean, look, they're
No.
playing with house money. Nobody expected them to be
Yep.
here
Yep.
in the playoffs, let alone win the division, right? So I think CJ Stroud. I'm not sure if you saw the interview that he was on the Pat McAfee show on Monday when they were here in Houston for the national championship game, and they were interviewing him. And I believe one of his co-hosts said that everybody's picking the Cleveland Browns and that the Texans have no shot. And CJ Stroud simply replies and goes, "We don't have a chance. All right, we'll see." So I think we're gonna obviously get the best effort here for the Texans being at home, catching
Yeah.
points at home. Give me the +2.5 for the Houston Texans.
couldn't agree with you more and co-signing everything that you said. One, this Joe Flacco story is so fun, and I'm definitely like here for it. But at
Yeah.
some point, this like coming off the couch magic, you just think the rust has to like set in. I feel
Mhm.
like that's going to start happening in the playoffs. It was a fun story. I just trust CJ Stroud, weirdly enough, as a rookie, more than I trust Joe Flacco. And also, the biggest point that you made are the Browns struggle away from home. They're just three
Yeah.
and six away from home. So I'm just kind of like, this isn't happening. I think it's going to be electric in Houston. The city is behind them. It's so
Yeah.
fun. Give me the Texans plus the 2.5. Actually, give me the Texans money line for an upset
Oh,
here. I think the
yes.
Browns are packing their game. They're packing their bags and going home. And you know what? I kind of like that because let's not forget, as fun as this Joe Flacco story is, this is still an organization that paid Deshaun Watson all that money up front, given everything that we know about Deshaun Watson. So,
Yeah.
sorry if I don't feel like I want things to work out well for them in his absence. But, anyways, moving on. Dolphins at the Chiefs. Chiefs laying 4.5 here. Rematch, of course, of Week 9, where the Chiefs won that game, and Tyreek Hill on his first revenge game. It was in Germany. All right, we'll give him
Yeah.
that. Didn't do well. Didn't have a touchdown. Miami limping into this game. Lot of injuries on their side. This to me, Munaf, it's like the devil that you do know is better than the devil that you don't know, right? We know both of these teams volatile. Both of these teams, you don't know what you're going to get. Could be amazing, could be a catastrophe. But we know the Chiefs in the playoffs. We
Yep.
know Andy Reid. We know Patrick Mahomes. We know Travis Kelsey, right? And traditionally, and I had Tyler Sullivan from CBS Sports on we last earlier this week talking about this game. He said, the playoffs are different than the regular season. The three
Yeah.
things that you really need in the playoffs are a good coach, a quarterback that's not going to make mistakes, and be able to run the ball. The
Yeah.
Chiefs can do that. I trust the Chiefs. I'm going to lay this 4.5 just based on that. I trust them more than I trust the Dolphins, even though I don't really trust any of these guys. But I know that Patrick Mahomes can turn this on. They can run the ball against the Dolphins. And so I'm going to lay this 4.5.
Yeah, and I think the other thing that we should discuss here is that the weather, right, in this game, it's gonna
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
snowing, it's gonna
Oh,
be frigid
yes.
temperatures
Tua
in
and the
this.
snow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So Dolphins since 2017, when the weather is less than 40 degrees, 2-7 straight up. 2-7 against the spread, 0-9 straight up in those games. So
Dun, dun,
um
dun.
yeah. So again, we talk about a team coming from South Beach, Miami, where the weather's always 80 degrees, 90 degrees. And now you have them going into Kansas City where it's going to be frigid temperatures and snowing.
And one of the
And the numbers
hardest
are,
stadiums to play in
yeah. And right.
with the
One of
fans.
the bigger home field advantages, right? Because those fans, like, the Buffalo Bills, we talk about with a great home field advantage and rowdy fans. And I mean, you mentioned it, Katie, they have a experienced Super Bowl winning head coach, Super Bowl winning quarterback. I know the offense has taken a step back this season, but I think the one underlying metric about this team is that this defense was actually top 5 in the league this year that nobody's really
Yes.
talking about. And especially at home, they were the second best in at least yards per play allowed, right behind the Cleveland Browns that we just talked about. So I'm all over the Chiefs here as well. I'm with you, -4.5. I think Isaiah Pacheco has a big game here. I think they'll be able to have success running the football, whether it's short passes, Travis Kelsey, Pacheco, Jerick McKinnon. I think this is a big win here for the Chiefs to move on to the divisional round.
Yeah, and like you said, the Chiefs' defense have been the story this year, and they've been
Mhm.
amazing
Yeah.
all season long, but particularly dominant in December. They've allowed 20 or fewer points in 5 consecutive games. Um, it seems like to me, like locker room wise, and I don't know if you've been watching the Hard Knocks in season, but that last kind of speech that Mike McDaniel made, it just seems like they're not really buying into it anymore. I think they might be a little bit emotionally broken after those tough. I mean, they had a chance to win the division, and now all of a
Yeah.
sudden they're in the wild card game playing on Peacock, right behind a paywall, and have to go into Arrowhead in frigid temperatures. It just seems to me like this team, I don't know. I mean, Mostert may come back. He's missed the last couple games. He's
Yeah.
trending towards playing. So that's huge for them. But this Chiefs defense has just been too locked down, and you just got to trust Patrick Mahomes. I mean, we've all
Yeah.
learned you got to
And
trust
you
Patrick
mentioned,
Mahomes.
right, the injuries that they're also dealing with the Dolphins, right? And it's Tyreek Hill, it's Jalen Waddle, it's Raheem Mostert, it's Devon Achan. All four of those guys are absolutely pivotal to their offensive success for the Miami Dolphins. And I expect those guys to be out there, but you're going into colder temperatures as well. And, how effective are they going to be in those colder temperatures as well? So give me the more healthier team. Give me the team
Yeah.
with the more playoff success. I think they get
Yeah.
it done.
The Chiefs are like the Warriors. If they get into the playoffs, there's a chance that they
Oh,
could
yeah.
win the whole thing. Do you know what I mean? They've got that
Yeah.
championship DNA. There's multiple times where the Patriots had bad seasons. They get into the playoffs and then look what they're able to do. So yeah, let's not count the Chiefs out. We're on the same page with that one. Moving on to Sunday morning. And my friends at CBS were bummed about this one. We hoped that the Dolphins would win so that CBS had a good game. However, now we have the Steelers at the Bills, and the Bills are laying 10. The Bills haven't made a Super Bowl since 1993. They've lost 4 straight. This was actually when our producer Tucker was born, during the halftime show of the Bills Cowboys Super Bowl. That's a very interesting fun fact. Love that. It's especially disappointing given what they've accomplished over the last 4 years: 48 wins, second in the NFL behind the Chiefs. Josh Allen is the only player in NFL history with 40 total touchdown passes in 4 straight seasons. This is an ugly weather game. It is supposed to be like 40-mile-an-hour winds, 80% snow, frigid temperatures. The Steelers are without TJ Watt, and without TJ Watt, to sum things up, they absolutely suck. They are 1-10 without him, compared to 69, 33, and 2. They go from their opponents scoring under 20 a game to almost 27 a game. They go from having 3.5 sacks per game to just barely having over 1. You're laying the 10 points. You're not the only thing that scares me about the 10 points is the weather.
Yeah, I'm gonna lay the points here. I think that again, the key metric here that you mentioned, the Steelers 1-10 without TJ Watt in the
Bad, bad.
on the defensive side. Yeah, that's really, really bad. So I just think that the Bills, I think both teams do have success running the football in this game, but I just don't trust Mason Rudolph. I think that the pass rush
No.
may be able to
God,
get
no.
to the Buffalo Bills. He makes maybe a fumble mistake and they scoop it up for a touchdown or a pick six or something like that happens for the Buffalo Bills. But Katie, the Buffalo Bills are playing probably the best football to wind down the season going into the playoffs. I mean,
Yeah,
there was a point where we were talking about this team that they wouldn't make the playoffs, and they went out and taken care of business. Now they're hosting a home game against a Pittsburgh Steelers team that doesn't have their best defensive player, like we talked about in TJ Watt. They have I guess we could call him a third string quarterback in Mason
yeah,
Rudolph. The blueprint is there for this Buffalo Bills team. I think they have success on the ground here. I think they take care of business. I'm looking at something like a 17-3 type of final here. I think it's gonna be a very,
yeah.
very low scoring game.
Well, that goes directly into my under. I'm taking this under 35.5, even though it's low. I looked at the National
Yeah.
Weather Service. They're calling for 3.5 inches of accumulation of snow from from snow squalls, gusts up to 41 miles an hour, winds
Yeah.
out of the west at 21 miles per hour. The forecast is even more certain of snow, 80% chance of participation, to go with 24-degree. Like, see ya. I mean, both of these teams definitely can play in cold weather. It's
Yeah.
freezing in Pittsburgh as well. But I like a lot of rushing props for this game. We'll get into props a little bit later. I was looking at the Josh Allen anytime touchdown is at minus 200. So obviously they think that's going to happen. I'm not taking that. But yeah, give me the under on this one. And I do like the Bills. I'm just hesitant to lay that. I'm worried about, like you said, the Bills are peaking at the right time. I am worried about them going deep into the playoffs because Josh Allen can't stop throwing interceptions. And you could get away with that in Miami because Tua is also going to throw those, interceptions. You certainly can get away with that against the Steelers because this offense has largely been inept, although a little
Yeah.
bit of a spark with Mason Rudolph over the last couple games. You're not going to get away with that against the Chiefs. You're not going to get away with that against the Ravens. You're not going to get away with that against the 49ers. So Josh Allen needs to clean up his side of the street. Otherwise, I'm worried about the Bills moving forward here. But moving on to Packers and Cowboys. Cowboys laying 7.5. The Cowboys' 12th straight playoff appearances without a conference championship game. It's the longest in NFL history. Look, the Packers could do an upset here, 6-2 in their last 8 games. Jordan Love, especially this last weekend, he threw some big boy throws. It was incredibly impressive. He's the sixth quarterback all time with 18 plus passing touchdowns, 0 or 1 interceptions in the final 8 games of the season. Aaron Jones also has been on fire. I don't care. I don't care. I'm not betting against the Cowboys at home, okay? I mean, if you just look at how good this Cowboys team
Mm.
has been playing at home, they are 8-0 at home this season, 6-2 against the spread. You look at how the Packers play, 4-5 against the spread on the road this season. Cowboys are averaging 38 points at home. Like I commend the Packers for making it into the playoffs, their first season removed from Aaron Rodgers. I think it's an incredible feat, but the buck stops here.
Katie, I'm not trying to get fired and pick the Cowboys here because they'll not be on brand with
Come
company.
on.
Um, I don't trust Dak Prescott in the playoffs. So 6 career games for Dak Prescott in the
Yeah.
playoffs, 1-5 against the spread.
'Cause
This
he
being
has to
out,
play the Niners, that's why.
that's true too as well, right? So I'm hoping that they do get to play against the Niners again, and the Niners absolutely crush them like they have the past 2 seasons. But outside of a touchdown, I'm gonna take the Packers here.
Alright.
It's at plus 7.5 right now.
Mhm.
Do the Cowboys win by a touchdown here? Yeah, I can see, but I'm getting that hook on that 7.5. I'm going to take that here. Like I mentioned, Dak Prescott 1-5 against the spread, and you mentioned right, they've been really good at home this season. Have the Dallas Cowboys have been able to put up the points, but I think this defense is a little inept as well after they
Suspect,
lost.
yeah.
They lost Diggs earlier in the season. Jordan Love, there was a point in the season where he kind of plateaued and was, there was questions on if he could be the quarterback of the future for the Packers, but he turned it up in the final month or so for the Green Bay Packers offensively, and they won some big games, got them into the playoffs. And I think that can carry over here into a game where obviously weather's not going to be a factor in this game,
No.
playing in Jerry's World inside of the dome. I think they can compete here with the Dallas Cowboys. I think they keep it within the touchdown here, so I'm going to take the plus 7.5. But I think there's a great teaser leg for the Cowboys side. If you want to bring it down to like 1.5
Yeah.
for the
Yeah.
Cowboys, I can see them winning by 3-6 points here. So I think that's a great teaser leg option for the teaser leg players.
Okay, love that. Might tell you on that one. This is the next game is the most exciting game, I think, of the whole week. The Rams at the Lions.
Yes.
Lions laying 3. This total the highest of all of the playoff games at 51.5. Jared Goff versus Matt Stafford. Their old teams. Two pretty high-powered offenses. But to me, I think that the Rams win this one outright. I'm taking Rams money line on this one. And look, and I think you and I have talked about this offline. This Rams team is scary. I think this is the team that a lot of
Yeah.
people don't want. Matt Stafford is playing the best football of his life, and that's better than he played when he won the Super Bowl. It's better than he ever played in Detroit. Matt Stafford is on a mission, and he's got not just Cooper Kupp, but he has Puka Nakua, and Kyron Williams has been running all over everyone. And this Lions defense is so porous, they can't stop anyone. They give up a ton of air yards per game. Matt Stafford is going to come in and he is going to cut them up. I like it to be a shootout. I think you're looking at this over, but give me the Rams to win this one outright.
Yeah. This number was outside of a field goal as well. I bet the plus 3.5. I bet the Rams money line here. I mean, you mentioned all the key points there, Katie. The narrative is great for this Super Wild Card weekend all across the National
Yes.
Football League in all the games. But this one, I think, is the cherry on top, where you have Stafford in his first game back in Detroit, Jared Goff going up against his former team in the Rams. I think in this game, the one thing that I think that hasn't been talked about is that I think that the Rams have a huge advantage in the coaching matchup between Dan Campbell and Sean McVay, because we talked about it, right? Sean McVay and the Rams have gotten to the Super Bowl. They've won the Super Bowl. They made their run a few seasons ago. But you also mentioned, like, I think this Rams team has more offensive weapons than they did when they made that
Yep.
Super Bowl run, because you talked
Yeah.
about, Puka Nakua, you talked about Kyron Williams. They finally have a legitimate running game as well. Now, Detroit's rush defense has been one of the better ones, I believe, top 5. But this is going to be a game I think it's going to be an absolute shootout. We'll see a lot of yards racking up between both quarterbacks, wide receivers from both sides. I think this is going to fly over the total. I'm with you on the Rams. I took the plus 3.5. I put it on the money line as well. But I think my favorite bet is going to be that over in this game here as
Yeah.
well.
Well, and you look at it too. I mean, it has all of the makings of a track meet. It's
Yeah.
indoors. Both Goff and Matt Stafford play better indoors. Stafford's very familiar with the field. I also just think that the Sean McVay aspect, he knows how to exploit Jared Goff's
Yes.
weaknesses,
Mhm.
and I just don't know that Jared Goff has the mental toughness that Stafford had. I just give Stafford the edge, and you know me, I don't even like Matt Stafford, and here I am just like building him up like he's my favorite player in the world. But yeah, I mean, I think we might see a divisional round with the 49ers and the Rams, and then we say goodbye to the Rams. But like you said, this Detroit defense are actually ranked number one in defense DVOA against the run. So I do think that Kyron Williams maybe has a harder time,
Yeah.
but this is a pass first offense anyways, and Matt Stafford, I believe the only time that he saw his former team, he absolutely cut them up. And the Detroit is a fun story, but it's time for the big boys, and I think that the Rams are the big boys. Let's talk props. Munaf, you are the prop master. What do you got?
All right. The first one I do like for this weekend. We talked about the game between the Chiefs and the Dolphins. Um, Dolphins have been a better rush defense, not at the level of the Detroit Lions. I know they're going to be missing some linebackers in this game, but I think this is going to be a big Isaiah Pacheco game.
Yeah,
I felt like his yardage was a little bit on the lower side at 19 and a half. So I took
really low.
Isaiah Pacheco. Yeah, over 19 and a half receiving yards in this game. You take a look, since week 12 of the regular season, the Miami Dolphins are actually allowing close to 40 yards per game to the running back position through the air.
Yeah,
So when we're talking about a game that's going to have weather, we're probably not going to see a lot of big
yeah,
shots taken down the
yeah.
field. So I think we might see some screen passes to
Yes,
Pacheco and him coming out of the
yes.
backfield, catching those Charlie check down passes. And I think he could definitely get over this number of 19 and a half. So that's my first player prop I love for this weekend.
I love that one too, and I'm gonna tail that one with you, especially when you think about all the drops that are happening with the receivers.
Yeah.
He's not chucking the ball down the field anyways. I think the screen
Yeah.
game is really gonna be where they get a lot of their success. I'm also looking at a running back. I'm going Najee Harris over 49 and a half rushing yards. And we talked about this. I like all of the rushing props actually for this game because it's a bad weather game. You expect a lot of wind, which means a lot of ground and pound. And when you look at this Buffalo run defense, they're allowing the fifth most yards per rush this season. And Najee Harris averages about 61 rushing yards per game. He's gone over his rushing yard prop in 8 of the last 12 opportunities at about 67%. So I think if they want a chance to win this game or keep it close, they're going to pound the rock with their number one guy, Najee Harris. So I do like him to get at least 50 rushing
Yeah.
yards.
Yeah, he's actually turned it around over the last several weeks. Three straight games where he's had at least 75 or more rushing yards for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So, like we mentioned, in a game that's going to have a lot of weather, it's going to be a lot of handoffs. I expect him and Jalen Warren to both have big games, but at least a running attack should be led by Najee Harris in this game. So, I'm definitely with you on that.
Love it. What's your next prop?
Our next prop, I mean, we love the shootout in the game between the Rams and
Oh,
the
yeah.
Lions, right? So, I think that when we talk about quarterbacks that trust their guys. We talked about, Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey having that rapport, and that success they've had in the playoffs. I think this is a good buy low spot for a guy like Cooper Cup. His
Yeah.
number right now is at 70 and a half receiving yards.
Yeah.
If we do think that Stafford's going to throw for at least 300 yards in this game, obviously it is going to be to Puka Nakua and Cooper Cup. I think both of those guys have big games. I wouldn't be surprised if they both have 100 receiving yards in this game, but Cooper Cup he's just a freak of nature, man. I mean, the
Huh.
guy, I know the numbers are down for him this season, obviously because of Puka Nakua, and they finally got him some help on the offensive
When he
side
was
of the
injured for a
football.
while. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was injured, right? And he was coming back from injury. But I think when the lights, shine the brightest, especially in the playoffs, I think this is gonna be a game where Cooper Cup just absolutely feast on the secondary of the Detroit Lions. So at 70 and a half, I smashed the over for Cooper Cup as my second player prop.
I love that. You know who's gonna help him do it? Matt Stafford. So I'm taking him
There we go.
over 274 and a half passing yards. It's a little juiced, minus 127. Oh, here it is. Here's the stats I was looking for. The last time that he faced his former team, he was 28 for 41 passing, 334 of yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, which, by the way, the Matt Stafford interception used to be my favorite bet, but he doesn't throw them
Yeah,
anymore. So it's not something that I have actually been betting. His completion percentage on turf is also 7.2% higher than on grass. And again, we know that he loves to play indoors. He's very familiar with this stadium. I think he's just going to have a hell of a game. And like we've said, Detroit's pass defense, absolute pass funnel. They allow the third most yards per pass, the sixth most passing yards per game. And if you look at Stafford and how he has been lately, right, this Rams team has been an absolute tear since coming off of the bye. He's hit this number in 4 of his last 5 games. He's actually averaging, like you said, near 300 passing yards per game at 295 and a half. And when you look at this Detroit team and we talk about how many air yards they've been given up, 5 straight quarterbacks have covered their passing yard prop against the Lions. You don't think Matt Stafford's going to come in there and cut them up? So love this. I hate how much I like this Rams team. I hate how much I like this Rams team, but I find them so exciting just because of all of the young talent that they have and that it's kind of invigorated Matt Stafford. He's having the best year of his career with these young guys that, and look, everybody had written off the Rams. They thought they were going to have a down year. And then look at them. They look like the second scariest team in the NFC. I still think the Niners will take
of
care of
course.
business against them, but yeah, I'm loving it. All right, the time has come for Mox Locks, and I got to tell you, I love the Rams money line. I hate myself, but I
Just
love
turns
this
into a
Rams
Ram
team.
podcast here. What are we doing?
Oh, I hate myself. Okay, that's my Mox Lock Rams money line. What's yours?
I haven't seen that same game. We talked about it. It's going to be a shootout in this game between these two teams. Give me the Rams and the Lions over 51.5.
Let's
Um, you,
go.
um, you mentioned it, right? The amount of yards that the Lions are allowing to the opposing quarterbacks. They're allowing the most uh, passing yards since week 13 to the quarterback positions, close to 311 passing yards in those games. Katie, they gave up in the final 3 weeks to Nick Mullins, and no disrespect to Nick Mullins, but week 16, Nick Mullins threw for
Yeah.
411 yards against the Lions. And then last week, he almost got another 400 yards. He was at 396. Dak Prescott threw for 345. So again, I think this is going to be a game where we see both these offenses getting up and down the field. Over 51.5 is again play for me here. And last note here, home games this season for the Detroit Lions 6-2 towards the over. So expect to see a lot of
Ooh.
points being put up in this game.
Yeah, I'm excited. I hope I pray to God it's the shootout that we all wanted to see, and not all of a sudden some kind of crazy defensive battle, which would be very interesting. I do want to get your take on one thing.
Yeah.
Obviously, you work with the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, and one of the co-founders, Sean T. Green, his Eagles started 10-1, and then they went 1-4, and their last they hit under on their 11.5 win total, and they are spiraling into the playoffs. How's he doing?
He's holding on to some type of hope that his team, at least they made it to the Super Bowl last year. I think they'll get it. I think I'm confident they get it done against the
Against the
Buccaneers.
Bucks.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, if they don't get it done against the Bucks, I mean, you gotta press the
If the Eagles were
panic
facing
button.
anyone else in the playoffs in the wild card, I would not take the Eagles. The only reason why I think is because the Bucks only put out what, 9 points against Carolina?
Yeah, and I think that if they were facing anybody else, um, I they'd be. I think they would be either a pick 'em or an underdog in the against the rest of the opponents. Maybe the Rams they would be favored against, but uh,
I don't
with
know.
all the injuries that they're dealing with,
Oh, well,
AJ
yeah, Jalen Hurts doesn't
Brown,
have a finger. Yeah, his finger's all
yeah,
messed up. You got AJ Brown with his knee. You got all the injuries are already plus just dysfunctional. Do
yeah.
you think if the Eagles lose to the Bucks and are a first round bounce out, there will be questions about Nick Sirianni?
Um, I I think there will be questions, but I think the saving grace for him would be is that number one, he led this team last year to the Super Bowl, fell a little bit short. And then I think
Still an
the
11 win season.
11 win season, and then they're going to be like, okay, there was multiple injuries to all the um positions that obviously mattered, right? With the finger injury to Jalen Hurts, AJ Brown with his knee, Devontae Smith with his ankle injury. I think though, if there is going to be changes, which I do expect, no matter how deep they do get into the playoffs, it's probably going to be on the defensive side. When you have a defensive coordinator that has a laminated sheet but uses a pencil on his ear, I think that's a red flag in Matt Patricia there, Katie. So this defense has been
Anytime
struggling.
you gotta lean on Matt Patricia, it's not
It's not
good.
good.
It's
Yeah,
certainly not
that's
on
not good.
offense, but not on defense as well. All right, Munaf, thank you so much for joining us today. As always, you've got a lot going on. You can follow him on social at SportsNerd824 after Kobe Bryant. But talk to us about some shows you've got coming up.
Yeah, we're obviously with NBA's in full swing. We're going Monday through Friday. So if you're an NBA fan or just want to get down on some picks every single day, Monday through Friday, NBA gambling podcast. Obviously, the NFL gambling podcast with the playoffs here, like we just talked about, and the propcast. I love player props. Me and Ariel Epstein talking about props every single morning. Whether it's NBA, NFL, so that's always a fun conversation. So propcast, we have that, and then right around the corner, Katie, before we know it, MLB season's going to be here. So MLB, we're going to be ramping up division previews fairly soon after the Super Bowl is over. So, like Katie said, just find me all over the Sports Gambling Podcast Network.
Absolutely love it. Munaf, thank you so much for joining us today. And check us out on Monday's show as well. We're going to preview the Eagles and the Bucks and react to the weekend results. This has been Moxie Bets presented by Caesar Sportsbook. Follow us on social at Moxie Bets, and we'll see you next time.